Hello and welcome to SixSigmaTV.net. My name is Steve Finney, and today we'd like to welcome you to the kickoff of the Greenbelt course here at SixSigmaTV.net. This course is designed to give you an introduction to Lean Six Sigma concepts at a Greenbelt level. Many of these concepts are the same concepts you'll find in the Black Belt course, only in the Black Belt course we'll be taking a much deeper dive than we will be in the Greenbelt course. So these Greenbelt concepts are designed to be an introduction to these concepts, and then we'll take it into further depth when we go into the Black Belt course a little bit later on in the season. Prior to this course, you should have completed the following things. Number one, the Greenbelt overview video. It's on our website. Please, if you have not finished this video, we ask you to pause now, go back to the resource tab, and watch and understand the Greenbelt video. A lot of the concepts that introduce the importance of Greenbelts and why we'll use them throughout the organization are discussed here, so we'd like you to review that first before you go into the course. Also, we'd like you to complete the project launch plan. You may have completed multiple project launch plans, and that's the reason for those in the first place. We want you to complete one launch plan for every potential project you have out there. That'll help you to identify and prioritize which projects are the ones we want to go after first, according to the strategic direction of your company and other factors that might come into play. And lastly, we ask you to download the latest version of the SixSigmaTV.net project management templates. That's an Excel spreadsheet we have available for download under our resource downloads tab, and you can download that and it will take you through each one of the deliverables and each one of the phases associated with the DMAIC project. At the end of this course, you'll be familiar with the DMAIC methodology and its broad range of tools and resources, and hopefully you'll be able to apply these to the completion of a successful project. How this course works. This course simulates moving a project through the phases of the DMAIC methodology. First, we introduce each of the phases. Then we introduce the deliverables of each phase. Each one of the deliverables is going to be a separate video module on our website. So what we'll do is, for the define phase, each of the deliverables will be its own separate module. That way, we'll go into detail on each of those modules, and then once you understand them, you can apply an exercise at the end of each module to your actual project. So you can take the concepts that we teach you, once we give you the detail, and apply those to your project, and hopefully able to move on to the next module. And lastly, you get to practice, like I said, using the tools on your projects, or if you have another project you're helping somebody else out, or if you're working on one together with somebody, you can both work collaboratively to apply these concepts. After you've had a chance to practice these tools on your own, you can email us or write us with any questions you might have or concerns you might have in applying these concepts to your project. Here we have the Greenbelt, Six Sigma Greenbelt DMAIC checklist. We go through each of the phases, and this is a checklist that we use to evaluate potential candidates for at the Greenbelt and the Black Belt level in terms of the project and how they were able to understand and grasp and apply these concepts to their project. So we'll go through the define phase, the measure phase, the analyze phase, the improve and control phases. We have the required deliverables for each one of the phases, and then we also have some delighters that we threw in there. A lot of those apply to Black Belt level type of concepts and items you'll learn at that point. But some of them we might cover during the Greenbelt course, and people might take a little bit more initiative to get a better understanding of those. So each of these, it's important to note that each of these deliverables and requirements are aligned with the ASQ body of knowledge as well. So upon successful completion of this course, if you're able to demonstrate the ability to use each of the deliverables, then you should have the required knowledge to sit for and study with additional study and pass the ASQ Greenbelt certification. Speaking of ASQ, ASQ stands for American Society for Quality, and they're like the project management professionals, the PMI Institute, the governing body for Greenbelt, Black Belt, and almost all your quality certifications. And they're noted throughout the world as one of the leading bodies of knowledge in terms of applying DMAIC and Greenbelt, Black Belt, Design for Six Sigma, ISO, all kinds of different concepts that relate to the quality world. So what we'll introduce right now the define phase. First thing we're going to talk about is the project charter. Hopefully you've downloaded the launch plan, so most of that will be cut and paste. You'll cut from that launch plan and you can paste it right into the charter. We'll go into the multi-generation project planning, where we'll look at a project and see if the scope maybe isn't too large, or if we're trying to accomplish more than we can achieve right now, maybe we should break it out into generations. One thing I like to see happen, and I have some of my students do this, is they'll go through first generation and apply their Greenbelt skills and concepts. Then they'll go through and do the next generation and apply the Black Belt skills and concepts that they were able to attain, or maybe some other skills in terms of trees or process modeling, simulation, more advanced skills above and beyond the Greenbelt. So that's one way to apply this multi-generation project planning. We'll get more into that in a moment. Then we'll start doing some baseline metrics. We'll look at introduce you to the cost of poor quality. What does it cost us when we have poor quality or poorly performing processes in terms of scrap, rework, customers' dissatisfaction, etc., etc. Other baseline metrics we're going to look at is how's our current process perform? What's the current state of our process? What's our process's capability? What's the sigma level? And also understand what other baseline metrics are we going to use to give us an initial evaluation on how well our process is performing. Next, we'll start performing some risk analysis. We'll introduce you to what we call a project FMEA, failure modes and effect analysis. FMEAs are used throughout your project. In this case, we're going to do it at more of a higher level. We're going to apply it to, or do a risk assessment on the project itself and understand, are there areas in which this project could fail due to much more macro level risks that we might be experiencing. And the Project FMEA will help identify and address some of those. We'll also perform a stakeholder analysis, understand who our stakeholders are, what they have invested in this project, and what their outcomes are like to be, and where do we need them to be, where are they, and is there a gap that we need to close. And then we'll also discuss the development of a communication plan, very important for success in a lot of these DMAIC projects. Helps people lower the fear level of the people that aren't involved in the project, that see us going in a meeting and doing all these project sessions without letting people know what's going on. Usually raises a lot of fear within an organization. So it's really important to have an effective communication plan. And then we'll go into the current state process mapping. We'll do some lean concepts in terms of non-value added analysis. And then we'll start getting into a SIPOC, understand what SIPOCs are, how they're used, and some of the detail we can pull from it for our project. And then we'll start understanding who our customers are, what do they want, and prioritize those wants into something that we can take into the next phase, in the measure phase, and understand what measures do we need to gather to understand what those prioritized wants our customers, or how well we're delivering our customers' requirements. So welcome to the define phase. Define phase. There's several reasons for the define phase. Number one is we want to identify a clear reason for doing the project. Why are we doing this project? How does it support our strategic objectives? Hopefully, if you are working with a champion in this project, you'll have an understanding of why we're doing the project and where their vision is of you in terms of taking this project in support of their strategic vision or their objectives, organizational objectives. Next thing we'll do is, in the define phase, is establish achievable goals. Some people try to take on these projects and they want to overachieve, and they set themselves up for failure by setting goals that are unrealistic and unachievable. So we want to make sure that you scope these projects to the right size, and that the goals and objectives are realistic. And then once again, we'll align the project with the organizational priorities. How does it fit in? How does it support it? And how are we going to do to make sure we succeed? Then we'll start defining the roles and responsibilities of all the stakeholders involved in the effort. So anybody, whether it's somebody on the team or people that have resources that they control, or people that we need to inform about a project, etc. We'll talk about how to do a thorough understanding and define the roles and responsibilities for each one, so we have a nice, clear understanding right up front before we get too far down the road. Then we'll get into documenting the current state. A lot of people think that just documenting the current state or the process flow is process improvement in itself, and that's not the case. We want to understand how well does the current process perform. Are there, what's the baseline along with the other metrics that we talked about that let us know, hey, are we making actual progress in improving this process, or is it, we need to know what our baseline is so that we can understand whether we made improvements in the process. Then we're going to identify the customers of the process where the problem exists. Who are these customers? Are there more than one types of segment for each customer? And what are the unique requirements and needs for those customers? And so we'll define those different segments and understand what their differing needs are, and then we'll take and collect those needs and we'll prioritize them. Just as we have multi-generation project planning set up, or we're going to do multiple generations, we're also going to prioritize customers' requirements into different priorities so that we make sure that we hit the must-haves or the non-negotiables first, and then we can go on to more of the delighters and the more is better and that sort of thing, which we'll talk about later on. So once we complete the define phase, we'll have a clearly defined and scope to make project with a timeline, a clear understanding of the financial impact of doing the project, or what's our cost-benefit analysis, and a thorough understanding of customers of the process, and a list of prioritized critical to customer requirements. So each of these, as we go along, for instance, the financial understanding of the project. We might not have our arms totally around the financial understanding of the project because we don't really know what the solutions are because we haven't got down to the root causes. So it's a fluid. The charter's usually a very fluid document in that as we start to learn more and discover things along the way, a lot of these metrics will change, and hopefully for the better. We just want to get a good baseline, helps us kind of determine, is this the project we want to do, or should we go and maybe look at some other projects out there? So the first deliverable is the project charter. This you should have completed during the project launch plan module. If you did that properly, you'll be able to just cut and paste from the project launch plan into the project charter template that's located in the project itself in the define phase. If you have not completed the project charter or the project launch plan, please go back to our download resource site and review the project launch plan module, complete the project launch plan to the best of your ability, and then be prepared to move on for the rest of the course. So you should have covered in the project launch plan, the project charter. The components of the project charter include business case, problem statement, goal statement, what's the opportunity, what's the scope, who are our stakeholders and how are we going to planning to address them, what's our project plan, and then what's our risk planning and how are we going to mitigate that. And so there you have the components of the charter template. As I mentioned, almost all these components can be found in the project launch template plan that you filled out earlier. So what I'd like you to do now is go back to your project launch plan, pull those elements out of the launch plan that belong in the project charter, and take a look at them. If they look good enough for you, then go ahead and just copy and paste them into the charter template. If not, go ahead and make a few tweaks. As I mentioned earlier, you'll tweak these things as we go throughout the project, so it's not written in stone right now, but we do want to tee this project up the best that we can. The more time you take now in defining the charter and completing the template, the better off your project's success is going to be and the more results you'll see as we go forward. So go ahead and take about 5 to 10 minutes right now, or as long as you need, and complete the project charter template based on the information you have from your project launch plan, and then prepare yourself for the next module, which is the multi-generation project plan.